Pride, independence, and utter tragedy. These three words describe Estline to a T. This shipping line started out with so much promise and hope, filled with pride for their nation, and was plagued by one singular event that changed their shipping line and the Baltic region forever. It only took one day for hundreds of lives to end, thousands of lives to change, and for entire shipping companies to see their future slipping through their fingers. Welcome to Fast Facts Friday. My name is Eleanor. Just a quick disclaimer for our younger audience before we dive in. This story may be disturbing to some, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay everyone, let's get into it. Welcome to the beginning of our 2-week remembrance of MS Estonia, as this year is the 30th anniversary of one of the worst peacetime maritime disasters in history. Today, we will talk about the shipping line that owned and operated her in her final moments. For an overview of the situation, Estline, sometimes spelled with a capital L right in the middle of things, was a Swedish Estonian shipping company owned jointly by Nordstrom and Thulin and the Estonian government via the Estonian Shipping Company, or ESCO. Founded in 1989, Estline had a 10-year exclusive right to the passenger traffic between Tallinn, Estonia, and Stockholm, Sweden. Their claim to fame is the tragic loss of their flagship MS Estonia on September 28, 1994, surrounded by questions, controversy, and heartbreak. In 1998, Nordstrom and Thulin backed out of Estline, making it a wholly Estonian-owned shipping company. By the end of 2000, all of Estline's remaining fleet were chartered by Tallink, and they officially declared bankruptcy in 2001, becoming defunct. Let's look at the shipping line in a bit more detail, shall we? Estline was a shipping company that ran passenger services on the Baltic Sea between Tallinn and Stockholm, established on August 28, 1989, when the Transport Committee of the Estonian Soviet Socialist Republic and the Swedish shipping company Nordstrom and Thulin AB signed a comprehensive contract to start cruise ferry services between Tallinn and Stockholm. Now, to be clear, a cruise ferry, also called a Ro-Pax ferry, is a type of roll-on, roll-off ship meant to carry cars as well as passengers with sleeping quarters and other needed passenger amenities for overnight travel. This differs from regular ro-ro ferries that carry passengers and do not have facilities for them to sleep, and typically they are much shorter trips than that of Ro-Pax ferries. MS Estonia was a Ro-Pax ferry or cruise ferry, both are synonymous, and was the flagship for Estline before her tragic sinking in 1994. Alright, let's get back to Estline. According to the written agreement between the Estonian government and Nordstrom and Thulin, Estline SAS, in partnership with Nordstrom and Thulin, was established in November of 1989 to provide passage between Tallinn and Stockholm. Estline SAS would hold a 10% share, and Nordstrom and Thulin held the 90% share. Since this was overseen by the Transport Committee of the Estonian SSR, the Estonian Trucking Company, Estonian Roads Administration, Tallinn Bus Company, and others would also be included in this contract. Another contract was signed between the Port of Tallinn and Estline SAS to construct the new terminal for the shipping line, and Moscow, Russia was left out of the deal. In 1990, on the evening of June 16th, the cruise ferry Nord Estonia, belonging to Nordstrom and Thulin Estline AB, left Stockholm with Captain Per Ringhagen on the bridge and set a course for Tallinn. The morning of June 17th welcomed the Nord Estonia at the quay of the maritime trade port. 2 days later, passengers with tickets arrived on the next trip, and regular passenger traffic between Estonia and Sweden was restored. MS Nord Estonia has been traded around a couple of times. She started as Dana Regina from Denmark, then was purchased for Estline as Nord Estonia, and she went through a few other transformations, ending her career as Adriatica Queen of all ferries in 2014. Estline was just beginning, and we are just getting started. If you are enjoying this episode and want to hear more about ships, their careers, and their wrecks, check out our main show, Shipwreck Sunday, every Sunday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay, let's continue with the history of Estline and look at the fleet. On May 22nd, the new passenger B terminal was opened at the Maritime Trade Port of Tallinn, the first European-style construction at the terminal, and the event took place before the restoration of independence in Estonia, as they were part of the Soviet Union at the time. Later that year, on August 19, 1991, there was a Soviet military coup attempt in Moscow, Russia. Due to this, the Red Fleet blocked the Tallinn port from the sea, and Soviet military vehicles popped up on Estonian roads. Paratroopers rained from the sky in the city of Tallinn. The war for independence had reached its climax. The Nord Estonia was in Stockholm and due to return to Tallinn, and the captain decided to head back as scheduled despite the uncertainty. The port, luckily, was opened that night, and on the morning of August 20th, 1991, the Nord Estonia was the only ship that arrived at the Tallinn port during this insecure time. All of the other ships had stopped at foreign ports, not risking it. Late that night, on August 20th, 1991, Estonia formally declared they regained their independence from Soviet Russia. In October of 1992, ESCO started to represent the country of Estonia on the shipping line between Tallinn and Stockholm, and a new joint company was formed and called E-Liini AS, the equal owners of which became ESCO and Nordstrom & Thulin AB. At the end of 1992, the company was reorganized, and ESCO now held 50% of the company, and Nordstrom & Thulin held the other 50%. In the beginning of February of 1993, the cruise ferry MS Estonia took Nord Estonia's place, starting service for the company after being purchased from Rederi Absali and AFOA. Unfortunately, as we will cover over the next 2 weeks, MS Estonia's legacy was cut short by her bizarre sinking on September 28, 1994. There would be an outage of passenger services that resumed on December 11th. After the disaster, MS Mare Balticum was rebuilt more thoroughly than first intended, and the logo of the company was replaced. In the fall of 1997, following the privatization of ESCO, its new owners introduced the cruise ferry Baltic Christina on Tallinn-Stockholm line, at first with a limited number of passengers. In January of 1998, ESCO had bought the share of Nordstrom & Thulin and renamed E-Liini AS to Estline again. On May 1, 1998, regular daily line traffic commenced with these two RoPax ships. In 2000, the number of passengers of Estline increased to 445,000, and in December of that year, ESCO made a lease contract with Tallink concerning both Mare Balticum and Baltic Christina. In January of 2001, traffic continued on the Tallinn to Stockholm line with one ship under Tallink's trainbark. Estline had neither vessels nor income, and so they went bankrupt that summer, going out with a whimper. Now we'll take a moment to look at all of their former vessels and their fates. The first of their ships was MS Nord Estonia, which started her career in 1974 as Dana Regina for DFDS, which is an international shipping and logistics company. She then became Nord Estonia, being sold off in 1993 and becoming Thor Heyerdahl. After this, she became Vana Tallinn for Tallink, and in 2011 she became Adriatica Queen for all ferries, then being scrapped in 2014. The second ship was MS Estonia, and we will get into part 1 of her history this Sunday. She began her career in 1980 as the Viking Sally, enduring until her sinking in 1994, leaving tragedy and mystery in her wake. The third ship in the fleet was MS Mare Balticum, built in 1979 for the Viking Line. She'd also sailed under the names MS Diana II and MS Melodia. Estline purchased the ship in 1994 and was sold off to Tallink in 1996. In 2021, she was finally scrapped in Alang, India. The next ship on our list is MS Regina Baltica, which was built in 1980 for Rederi Absali like Estonia was. She was first named Viking Song, then being named Braemar under the ownership of Fred Olsen until they changed her name again to Anna Karinina, and finally she came into ownership by Estline and her name was changed to Regina Baltica. Though she was sold off to Tallink in 2002, her name has remained Regina Baltica, and miraculously, she still is in service to this day. And finally, we have MS Baltic Christina. She was ordered by the Silja line in 1969, being built in 1973, being named Bor 1. She was sold to a Finnish company in 1980 and was renamed to Scandia, but her route for Silja line remained the same. In 1983, she was sold to the Stena line and renamed Stena Baltica, but soon the Baltic Shipping Corporation purchased her and renamed her to Elik. In 1996, Elik was sold again to a Maltese company and renamed Anastasia 5. And in 1997, she was sold again to Windward Venture Shipping, who named her Windward Pride. In October of 1997, she was sold to Estline, being renamed Baltic Christina until 2000, when Tallink would then have the ship. In 2002, she was sold again to the Riga Sea Line, and she is now called MF Regal, owned by Venturas Ferries. As for Estline, they would disappear in 2001, leaving behind a legacy of Estonian pride, passenger service, and absolute devastation in the loss of MS Estonia. For their short life cycle, the most notable event was sadly the saddest, and one that can never be forgotten. If you liked that story and wanted to hear something similar, check out our cruise ships, ferries, and Ro-Ro ferries playlist in the cards. Stay tuned this Sunday for part 1 of MS Estonia's story, beginning with her building and early career. Thank you for tuning in to Fast Facts Friday, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next time.